So I've decided to kind of take an opportunity during my lunch break to think out a very, very cliched and stupid philosophical problem. Because it's something that's bothered me for a long time. I have been a lifelong fan of the existentialists. Existentialism is something that I've always just had a real passion for, and I've been reading Walter Kaufman's book, Existentialism, from Dostoevsky to Sartre, and I don't know, there's just something really empowering about existentialism. There's something that's just really enthralling and invigorating in a lot of ways, about the idea that your life is ultimately yours to create. Just to quote from Waking Life there, which I'll probably end up doing, because Waking Life is probably the most poetic treatment of existentialism I've ever seen in my entire life. But there's a problem with existentialism that has always bothered me. Something that has just been nagging at me in the back of my head, like it's seriously chewing on me, and it just absolutely kills me. And that's the problem of free will. And the problem of free will is one that will drive you absolutely bananas if you think about it long enough, because it's a really stupid, pointless question to ask, and yet I keep going there. And the problem with existentialism, again, existentialism assumes that you are responsible ultimately for your actions. You create yourself. You create your own issues. You create your own problems. Sartre took this so far that he put together a therapy for it, that he thought you could actually cure sickness this way. That if you can just move past your weird mental hang-ups, the weird tendency you have to create your parameters, to create your boundaries, that you could drastically improve your life, that you could live a more authentic life. The problem is that if you're going to assume that you can create your own reality, that ultimately you yourself are responsible for the person that you are, well, humans are deterministic machines. I mean, you can explain behavior in fluctuations of dopamine and all those hormones, right? We are electrical machines. We are hardwired to make certain decisions, to value certain things. If that's in your biology, then how can you be actually responsible for the person you are? How can you be responsible for the choices you make when your biological makeup tries so hard to determine those things? And I've been thinking about it a lot today because, again, I read the intro in Kaufman's book, and I kind of came to the conclusion that there's kind of this weird middle ground that, for me, I think choice becomes realistic and people become responsible only when they have the capability and the opportunity to see the world as it is and to comprehend it rationally. What I'm assuming here is that people are born broken. Or let's not say born broken. Let's say you're born with tendencies that don't match your environment. This sounds a lot like original sin in the Christian perspective, but you don't even have to think about it that way. We, according to evolutionary biology, are hardwired like cavemen. We value fatty foods because it instantly, triggers the response that, oh, I'm getting a lot of nutrition. We have an irrational valuation of wealth and reward. We don't approach things from a balanced perspective because most of us are still stuck in the extremism of caveman life. We still think that we are under attack. We think like the caveman with the spear in his hand hunting the tiger. That's why so many of us stress ourselves to death. That's just the way that we're wired right now. So, responsibility might not be an innate quality of human experience, like Sartre wanted it to be. There might need to be steps to be taken before you can actually be responsible and make those informed choices. So the frightening thing is, and I'm thinking I might try to write a paper on this, is that this sounds very similar to one L. Ron Hubbard in his Dianetics. The idea that You are born broken. You are born with engrams. You must work to clear yourself, to be responsible. Uh-oh, was L. Ron Hubbard a philosopher? I think he may have been, but in order to use his works and to dig out their philosophical value, I actually don't believe that you have to be an adherent to Scientology, because there are some really weird observations that he makes that are kind of true. The fact that we do have this tendency to hurt ourselves. We have a tendency to find ourselves locked in patterns that are self-destructive. But rather than go into this odd, mystical, religious interpretation of that, I think you can look at it more from an evolutionary perspective, a biological perspective. By kind of straddling this line, you could come up with a much more accurate view of what free will is. And I'm going to conclude this because I'm literally just babbling right now. We use so much of our understanding of free will to create and enforce our values. And again, I'm going to quote Waking Life here for a minute because that movie is awesome. In Waking Life, they talk about the fact that, you are responsible for actions of your own free will. Well, there's an intellectual threshold that you can, set that says, well, you don't have free will yet. You're still a machine. You're still broken. You haven't broken free from the patterns, the intellectual, kind of knee-jerk evolutionary reactions that actually are devoid of rationalism. You have not gotten to that point yet. You don't have free will. You can't be said to be acting upon your own free will because it has not manifested itself yet. Probably a really freaky idea, and I'm hoping you guys hate me because I like to be hated. That's just the person that I am. I'm sorry I've wasted so much of your time. You guys rock. Woohoo!